Hello, my name is Sharon. I am the vocalist guitarist of the band DERKÉTA. We had formed back in 1988 and are known as the first all-female death metal band. I also play bass in a band called Avicium. Those who are familiar with Rot Trevor, this is Mark Mastro's other band. And I'm going to answer some questions for Dethrone Records. I'm not very good at verbalizing, so hopefully my answers don't get misunderstood or mistaken. So yeah, feel free to leave some comments and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Yeah, I'm doing really well, I think. I'm just at home, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, the pandemic question is going to start the interview off on a little bit of a downer. A couple days before the lockdown happened, my mom unexpectedly died in a hospital, not because of COVID. It was her heart and had miscare. So, there was a lot going on, and we weren't watching the news because of all of that, and had no idea what was about to happen. The day that we buried her, which was a Thursday, afterwards we were at my parents' house, just had the news on, and they were doing a segment on the toilet paper being off the shelf, and we didn't know what was going on with toilet paper. We thought, there was some manufacturing thing happening, and then we started getting text messages from other family members alerting the family that was in town that they better get a flight home, otherwise they're going to be stranded here for a while. So that Monday after the burial is when everything kind of shut down. And it was a difficult time because I needed to be there for my dad. It just wasn't a good time. And then 5 months after my mom passed away, my dad had a bad accident and fell on his head 10 feet onto concrete, and had over 100 facial fractures and broken wrist. And so I had to take care of him. I thought I was going to lose him as well. So there was a lot of, family things that were happening during the pandemic. And I actually didn't mind that the world had shut down because I had shut down. And I didn't want to talk to anyone or anything like that. So it was, for me, the perfect time for a pandemic to hit was when it did. Unfortunately, the circumstances of the pandemic were bad, and I ended up losing friends that caught COVID, and they had some sort of issue, like ailment that they didn't know about, and passed away. And my friends lost parents and grandparents, brothers and sisters. And so a lot of us went through a lot of just horrible experiences and stuff. And also, in regard to the band, our guitarist Trish found out that she had stage 3 breast cancer, triple negative, which is, I think one of the most aggressive forms of breast cancer. And she still is in treatment. She has to have chemo every 3 weeks for the rest of her life, which that thankfully is working well for her. And she's still able to do the band, and the chemo that she's on, like her hair grew back and stuff. So, that has helped her esteem and, help keeping the fight going and all that. So, there was a lot of heavy things happening at that time. And even my drummer had recently bought a house, and he was doing some remodeling. And so it was a much needed time away from the band. And as soon as we were able to, get together and start rehearsing, we all did. And it took a little bit, I think, to get our focus back to the band. But as soon as we were able to play shows and stuff, we started playing some shows again and slowly got back into that routine. I haven't listened to too much new music, only because of the circumstances of the past few years with grieving. I've been wanting to listen to something that I'm familiar with, that is going to, just comfort me and get me out of moods. And I know the songs that will do that. So I've been listening to a lot of Rory Gallagher, who is on my shirt. I listen to him and watch his live videos daily for inspiration, and he's really gotten me through some rough times. As well as Leonard Skinner. I listen to a 77 soundboard from them that I love. And a lot of bands from the 70s that I grew up listening to, like Deep Purple, Aerosmith, Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, the band Free, which is Paul Rodgers from Bad Company's band prior to Bad Company. I listen to Bad Company as well. But stuff like that. And I've been getting into some blues as well, like blues and blues rock. Listen to that a lot. For a newer band, though, there's a band from Sweden called Darkened. Well, the vocalist, Gord, is in Canada, but they just have a release that's not too, a few months ago, I believe it was released. It's doing really well, getting a ton of good reviews. So I'm not the only one that thinks this. And odds are that if you check them out, you'd be into them as well. And with hobbies, I like to garden, so it's not too exciting, but I'm into perennial gardens and always looking to expand my gardens. And I joined my community's farm and help weed, plant and harvest herbs and vegetables, and we donate them to a local food pantry. It's all organic, so no chemicals or anything, so it's good stuff. And of course, guitar playing is probably my bigger hobby. And I recently wanted to learn how to read sheet music, and I've been working on that. I started a few years ago, but then everything happened and my mind just kind of shut down a bit, and kind of gotten back into that, and I'm enjoying learning how the sight read and just become a better guitar player. Yeah, the history of the band, this question may be a little long. A lot has happened since 1988. But it all started, I got a guitar when 1985 or 86, and was struggling learning other people's music. Back then we didn't have, YouTube or internet or anything like that. So, I didn't have guitar tutorials to help me learn songs, and it was, we had our albums, and we just had to keep playing parts over and over. And I wasn't very good at distinguishing, the guitar parts. So during this process, I started stumbling over songwriting, and kind of got a passion for that and started writing songs. So it's only natural when you're writing songs, you want to hear, the other instruments and stuff. And so I was at a party at Ted Williams. He was the then bass player of the band Dream Death. He would have parties every weekend from Friday to Sunday, and we would just go there and stay there the whole weekend and listen to music and stuff. And Terry was at one of the parties, and her and I got to talking, and we liked the same music, and I mentioned to her that I was looking to start a band, and she said she wanted to start a band as well, so we swapped phone numbers. She originally was going to be the vocalist. I never wanted to be the vocalist, but but so I went to her house and asked to hear her vocals, and it was more like Fate's Warning style vocals, and that's not what I was looking for. So I told her that no, I'm looking for death metal vocals, more in the lines of like a Cam Lee, and she's like, I can't do those vocals. So I still wanted to be in a band with her, and I asked her, like, well, what instrument do you want to play? And she said she always kind of liked drums. So I was like, okay, you be the drummer. And we went to a friend of ours, Jeff Cherub. He was in a local band called Doom Watch. We went to his house where they practiced, and he was a guitarist, but he also knew how to play drums a little bit. So he kind of taught Terry the basics, and it was also at his house where we tried out my vocals, and oddly enough, I was able to do the death metal vocals, and so then I became the vocalist. And her and I started rehearsing, and getting our, self kind of acquainted with playing with each other and all that. And March of '89. She got a drum set. And I remember that distinctly because we used to say that was our formation date, because that's when we felt like a real band. Like, she had her own drum set, and we set up our rehearsal spot in my parents' basement and started rehearsing. And after this point is where when we were telling our friends that we had a band going, and different people would recommend other members. So I was talking with Ross from Immolation. He knew of Kim August from the fanzine Ultimatum, and said she played bass. And so he, connected us, and she flew in for like a tryout, and also was on the our first rehearsal demo, which was September of 1989. She played on that, but she lived in, it was either New Jersey or New York, which is like 6 or so hours from Pittsburgh. And back then, phone companies didn't have good long-distance phone plans and stuff. So there it was just an expense that that none of us really had the money for. So we thought, like, oh, well, we really need to focus on finding someone local instead. So Vincent Crowley from Acheron, he ran into a girl called Heidi Franks and said she was into death metal and played guitar. So he hooked us up, and we thought she was going to work out. And that's the girl that's on the back of the Seraphic Decay 7-inch. But there's a notation on her that she didn't record on the record because she had just formed. But it was right when we were getting our photo taken, and Terry and I were tired of always having like just her and I in a photo. So we're like, oh, we got another person. So we had that photo taken, but then she didn't work out. She didn't fit in with us, and was just starting out on guitar. So it just didn't work out. So we were still looking for another guitarist. We wanted to start playing shows, and Don Crotchley from the band Nunslaughter, he had a bass, but he wasn't a bass player, but it was just I think originally with Nunslaughter he played a bass or something like that. But so we had asked him, or he had offered or something, that he would play bass until we found someone so we can start playing live shows. And as I was teaching him songs, he had run into Mary Bielik. He had met her somewhere, and she was a trained bass player. Like, she was going to the University of Pittsburgh for music, and was into bands like Metallica and stuff like that. And so he was like, I think she would work out really well. And so, we finally, he was able to talk her into meeting with me, and she was a little bit hesitant, but, we talked her into, just playing with us for a little bit. And then, and this is about the time when all of our friends were kind of saying, like, you guys should keep this like an all-girl band, because it's like a gimmick without a gimmick kind of thing, because we were all into it. but it just was, all of our friends kept kind of like introducing us to other females that were looking for bands and stuff. So so we met with Mary, and we still needed to fill the second guitar spot. And Paul from the band Cynic knew Robin Mason, and he contacted Terry and kind of made that connection with Robin. So Robin flew up from Tampa and met with us, but this was like a weird time in the band, because right about this time was when Terry and I were just on each other's nerves or something. We weren't getting along, and I don't think I really knew that Robin was really interested in joining the band, because she was talking more with Terry, and Terry and I weren't getting along. And the band shortly, like as soon as we kind of had a band, it just, we broke up because of Terry and I just not seeing eye to eye. And it wasn't anything major. It was, at the time, we were getting some interest from some labels, and they wanted to have another demo recorded, and Terry was wanting me to finish up some new songs to record. But at this time, I had just bought a house, and I needed to get that situated. And plus, Mary had just joined the band, and I said, well, let's get her worked in. And so she's, we can develop that chemistry, and then we can all work on the new material together. And for whatever reason, waiting a couple months for me to get my house sorted out with moving and all that seemed like a couple years to them or whatever. So we started fighting about that, and so they went their own separate ways, and I started working with Scott Phillips, which is a local drummer here, and he and I were working on the new material until him and his girlfriend got back together, and then she didn't want him rehearsing with me anymore or whatever, and I constantly will always throw that in his face because they didn't work, they didn't last. But anyway, so I worked with him for a while, and there was also two guys from North Carolina. It's about the time that I was still, I bought the house, but I was in the middle of remodel, and I couldn't move in, and they were wanting to join. And it was the same thing, like they wanted to come up right then and there, and I wasn't ready to have, like I didn't have a place for anyone to stay. So, so that didn't happen. And I think after the whole thing with when that happened with Scott, I kind of just got frustrated, with it all, and took a break for a couple years until I think this was 1991 or 92 when all that was happening. Because we recorded, well, no, I think it was 90 with the recordings, but I think it was 1991 that the band with Terry and all that broke up. And then 97, I believe it was, Don Crotzley from Nunslaughter contacted me to see if I would reform again. And from 91 to 97, the underground scene got weird. Bands were getting more like technical death metal, and I wasn't into that. So that's kind of like why I got out of it. But when Don contacted me, he was like, no, that's when the term old school death metal was came to play. And he told me that people are kind of interested in listening to like really the original form of death metal, which got the tag old school death metal. So he said, why don't you guys, you and Terry, reform and do a recording. It'll be a split 7-inch with Nunslaughter. So that's what we had planned, and I contacted Terry, and she was into it. But whenever we got to the recording studio, we weren't seeing eye to eye on the direction of the band. The guy that had this, like, it was just a home studio, he wanted to turn us into like a goth band, and I was, not into that at all. and Terry had more of like, well, let's entertain it kind of thing. And I guess they were kind of talking with her that, I don't know that, I was controlling or whatever because I didn't want to go goth. But it wasn't so much that, it's just I'm not goth, and that wouldn't be right for me to do something like that. So that never happened. So that we stopped working together then. But and when that happened, Jim Kanya, who was the drummer of Nunslaughter, contacted me, asking what was going on, and said like, "Well, I'll be your drummer." And I started working with him. He lived in Cleveland, which was like 2 hours from where I live, and I would go out there on the weekends and rehearse with him, and we did some recordings together. And Rhea from the band Somnus, at one point, she was going to be the bass player. And I don't know what happened with that. We just, it just, I guess with the distance and everything, we just never really got that lineup to actually happen. We did get photos taken together, band photos. But she did write the intro to the Begotten Son 7-inch, which I loved. She's really good with stuff like that. That's like the keyboard thing. And Dawn's ex-wife where they were married at the time, Heather, she played bass on one of the recordings from when I was working with Jim, just as like a session thing. And let's see, that takes us. Oh, and then there was a friend of mine from France, Mad Max. Mad Max. He committed suicide while he was in Canada, and some friends of his were putting out a release as a tribute to him, and they asked if I'd write a song and go on it. So my friend Bill Belial from the band Lethal Prayer introduced me to his drummer, and he just did a session recording with me. His name was, we called him Troll, that was his nickname. I think his real name was Jeff. So then after that, I continued to write songs, and I kept talking. I would run into Terry, and I would tell her that I really wanted to record with her again, that, her and I always had like a chemistry together. And so I was writing songs, but I was holding off on recording them until she agreed to do it. And finally, I think it was like 2009 or 2010, she finally said yes. We were at a show, I believe it was Obituary and Unleashed, and Robin happened to be on that tour selling merch. And, Terry came up to me and said, "Hey, let's do it." And so we went and told Robin that, we were going to record again. And Robin's the one that said, like, no, we're going to do more than that. We're going to reform the band as it should have been in 1991. But at this time, Robin no longer was playing guitar. She switched over to bass. And she said, let's talk Mary into playing guitar, because Mary is, out of all of us, the one that has more the musical talent. So for her to switch over, it seemed like a good idea. So we talked with Mary, and she agreed to do it. And that was the lineup for the In Death We Meet recording. But then after the recording, we kind of got the bug in us. We wanted to start playing shows to promote the album and stuff. But Terry had only agreed to really record the album, and we kind of like suckered into doing more. And she couldn't get all that time off of her job, so she had said, "You guys need to find another drummer." And this is when we were introduced to Mike Laughlin, who was he had played in Cattle Decapitation and Creation is Crucifixion, that band as well. He had recently moved back to Pittsburgh, and a promoter had asked if we would, play a show. And I had told him that we needed a drummer, and he's like, "Oh, I know someone that just moved back," and he introduced me to Mike, and Mike set up his drums, and he's been the drummer since. So since that's been 2012, I believe, Mike's been in the band, and that was the lineup for a while. And with Robin, always. She's always on tour with bands, either selling merch or tour managing or playing in other bands. So she doesn't always have the availability to play a show, especially if it's just like a local show. So we asked Trish Bill, who is a local musician. She was a guitarist, but we asked if she would be Robin's bass fill-in for live shows, and she agreed to do that. So she was always at our rehearsals and was always show ready. And then it was 2019, I believe, when Mary and some others bought a building that they were turning into a venue, and she didn't have the time to really dedicate with the band anymore, because we were trying to book more shows, and it just was not working with her schedule. So she left the band, and we asked Trish to switch over to guitar, which she did. And then, of course, now we need a fill-in for Robin whenever she's off on tours. So our friend Anthony, who is in a band with Mike, they have a band called Auto Replicant. He learned our set to fill in for Robin, so he's now part of the DERKÉTA family. And I think that's about it. We did have Chris Weber from Rochefort play a show for us, or show with us, when we played Atlanta, Georgia, because Robin had something come up and wasn't able to play it, so he filled in for her there. But I think that pretty much covered all of the members. So the lineup right now is me, guitar, vocals, Mike Laughlin on drums, Trish Bill on guitar, Robin Mason on bass, and Anthony is always there to help us whenever we need a fill-in. And we rehearse at my house, and that's pretty much that. So yeah, a little bit. That's a 20-minute answer. Sorry. We recorded In Death We Meet in 2012, but we actually recorded it a couple years before that, up in just a rehearsal room. I think it was probably 2010 that we recorded it. But the tempo and the feel of the songs weren't right. I don't know why. It just may be that things were still getting worked out, and I the songs weren't. They just didn't have the right vibe from what I was like hearing in my head, kind of a thing. So the whole thing was recorded, and then I just said we got to scrap it, and let's go to an actual studio versus the rehearsal room to record it. And so we went to a friend of ours that has a home studio in his basement, and Ricky Budway, and he recorded us, but I wasn't happy with my guitar tone. It's like Mary was using my Laney, and she sounded really heavy, and I thought that I was using my Roland, which is what I had used for the Premature Burial release, and also the Unholy Ground. So I wanted to kind of keep that same sound, but it just wasn't like complementary with the Laney. And the guitars just, I don't know, it just wasn't sounding heavy to me. I ran into another friend of mine, Jimmy Dofka, who has a studio, and was telling him about it. And when he listened to it, he says, oh, there were some phasing issues going on. So sounds were canceling each other out. So I went to his studio and recorded using his one of his amps, which was a B52 that had some Mesa tubes in it, and I got a nice warm sound on it. So I recorded my guitars with him, but whenever he went to mix the recording, we weren't agreeing on the drum tones. I like just natural drum tones, and he was more into I don't know. I don't know if it was triggers or what the deal is, but to me, like the double bass kind of sounded too clicky. Like it reminded me of like a baseball card and a bicycle spoke kind of a thing, and it just wasn't our sound. And unfortunately, that was the drum kind of sound. I mean, a lot of people like that sound, so I'm not cutting on Jimmy, because that's like became the newer drum sound that's on a lot of recordings, but I just personally don't like it, and I didn't want it on my recording. So so Jimmy kind of was like, take it or leave it, and so I got to leave it. So what he did for me was he mixed the guitars and the bass, and I took that back to Ricky, and because I liked Ricky's drums, and then Ricky was able to do the final mix and get it all going for the 2012 release. But I still wasn't happy with my guitar sound, or the overall guitar sound. It just seemed like it was missing something, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But I wanted to revisit it, to remix it for a vinyl release. And I ran into Ola from the band Grave and was talking to him about it, and he told me he'd like us to try a mix. That he had a studio back in Sweden called Studio Solace. So when he got back home from tour, he contacted me to send him a track, and I figured, well, it would be a lot of going back and forth, like things that I was looking for or whatever. So I just wrote down a few lines in an email of what I wanted, and he did it, and it was perfect. So I hired him to remix the album, and so we retired the 2012 release once that sold out, and went on to the 2015 remix. But we added some bonus tracks on it, which was our Darkness Fades Live 7-inch. And then for the vinyl version, it's actually double vinyl, and we added a live show that we did, and in addition to the Darkness Fades Live 7-inch. And the live show, I must say, that's all organic. There's no punch-ins or anything. So however we played is what's on the album. It was just mixed. And yeah, so that's that. So from 2010 to 2015 is how long In Death We Meet took to really, get laid to rest. And yeah. So how do I know when a song is done? I guess it just stops nagging at me. Whenever I sit down to play and I stumble over a riff, sometimes I'll get like a lyrical line. And it's kind of like I call it like a prominent thought, because it's different than like my regular thoughts. So when that happens, that's when I know, like, oh, I'm writing a song. And I just keep playing that riff over and over until it starts developing. And I'll have our drummer put some different drum beats down to it. So I'll play for like a minute or two, and just to hear different drum beats, and that a lot of times will kind of just instigate like the next riff. And then the more that's coming of it, the more lyrical lines come in. And it, to me, like, I think of it as like a mental puzzle, because I'll have scattered lyrical lines, and it ends up in somehow, turning into a story, but I just have to fill in the blanks. And, and kind of once everything gets done and it feels good and everyone's kind of, it, feels that it's like a completed song, then we're okay with it. We have a song called Centuries of Time, and it was one that just recently I had an idea, and we kind of, got it all together, developed, and, once we kind of had it done, Trish had said, like, well, that one's done, and so it's kind of funny, like we all just kind of know that, when we're done with it. We have, it's about 10 or 11 songs that are in the works, and I think there's 5 to 6 that are near complete. I kind of want to get them recorded, not to give out to anyone, but just for our benefit, like demo them out and to make sure we got the vibe in place. Similar to what I did with In Death We Meet, where, that was unintentional. Like we did the recording, and then we had a scrap. I wanted to scrap it, and I don't think the band really understood, but maybe they do after hearing, the final one, that, there was a vibe that kind of happened with once we were more just familiar with the way the song was going to end up. And so that's the process that we're doing now. And like I said, we got, a good bit of material that we're working on. And I've been keeping myself somewhat isolated so I can zone in on the writing. And because it's when you're writing that many songs, like you don't want them to kind of be similar to each other. So it's you got to kind of get into different mindsets, and some of the songs are dealing with a lot of the grieving and stuff, and so I'm kind of leaving those to last because I just don't want to visit those places just yet. But the music and stuff is coming along really well. Yeah, we really enjoyed playing the St. Vitus Club in Brooklyn. We played there a few times, and it was one of our favorite places to play. But unfortunately, they closed down a few months ago. We're hoping that they can reopen, but that's a shame that they had to close their doors. As far as our 3 memorable gigs, I would have to say we played Maryland Death Fest at Ram's Head Live, and we had the best onstage sound that we've ever had. And I don't know if people realize that when bands don't hear what the crowd is hearing, we're kind of limited because of the microphones, and you got to watch feedback and stuff. So, it's you have to rely on monitors, which to me they sound like transistor radios, and a lot of times I can't hear the my amp sound behind me. With me being the guitarist vocalist, I'm kind of stuck in a spot, so it's not like I can move around to my amp. I'm just stationary, and it's real difficult with the vocal monitors and everything with feedback. So I usually have to have some something lacking in order to get through the show. But Ram's Head Live, however, was able to make it happen to where I could hear my amp behind me, and I could hear the vocals really good, and all the other band members, and it was like that with it for everybody. So that was kind of nice that we had like that type of an experience. The other one probably would be playing Killtown Death Fest in Copenhagen, because that was our first time playing Europe, and that was a really fun crowd, and we had a good time over there. Probably our third would probably be our first show, just because it was the first time that we played, and it was kind of funny because we started the set with our song Premature Burial that has the storm intro. And Terry told the venue to turn off the lights during the intro, so it was more like a dark storm, you know. And we thought it was just going to be the stage lights, and the venue turned out all the lights, like for the whole place. So, you know, we're on stage, like, you know, tuning and trying to get ourselves, you know, acclimated. And next thing you know, it just goes pitch black, and you know, you get a little bit disoriented during it, and you know, and then like when the intro is done, the lights come on, and you're just kind of, you know, have to go with it. Pittsburgh has always had a really good metal scene. We have a lot of great bands here. Some of my favorites are the band Argus. My friend Butch is the vocalist. They're not death metal vocals, but he has a really good tone to them. He's one of my favorite vocalists. But, you know, look up Argus. So, like the song The Ladder or Pieces of Your Smile. Those are real good ones. Dream Death, Penance. Doomwatch, Submachine, Sathanos, we got Funerus, let's see, Rotrevor, Vicium. Mary is in a couple bands. If you like AC/DC, she's in a band called the Mud City Manglers, which is like a heavy AC/DC rock band, kind of. And she's also in a band called Negative 13, and they're really good. I like them a lot. They have like just a heavy sludge sound to them. She's also in the band Behind Enemy Lines. Mike's in a band called Auto Replicant. If you're into Voivod, I think you might like them. They're kind of, you know, that kind of a style of music. Let's see. I'm sure I'm missing people. Oh, if you're into Motorhead, check out Pittsburgh's Mower. Kind of Motorhead with an edge, which I know that seems, you know, redundant because Motorhead already had an edge, but they have a little bit of a gruffness. Oops, sorry. They have a little bit of a gruffness to them that I really like. Oh boy, who else? I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, definitely check out the Pittsburgh metal scene. It's we have a lot of different bands from all genres here, and it's quite a good scene. Yeah, being a female in the metal scene, you have to realize back in the 80s, we were teenagers and most of us still in high school. And you know, we weren't really accepted in like the mainstream, and we're somewhat misfits. And the underground, now that is just a term that people use to try to, you know, I guess say that they're into extreme music or whatever. But back then, the underground really was the underground. It, you know, it was almost like a secret society, you know, because if you were to find, you know, bands and stuff that were in the underground, then people knew that you were really into it, because these weren't easy. Like you couldn't just go to any record store and, you know, get a death metal demo, like it, you know, so, you know, everyone kind of knew that, you know, if you were there, you know, there was something, you know, that you connected to each other with, you know, like something that just like-minded. So it didn't matter if you were a female or a different race or anything, because, you know, we were just excited to find like-minded people. And it was really good times. We all looked out for each other, and the girls back then, because a lot of the hair metal bands that was their kind of heyday. And a lot of girls, I guess, would get influenced by the MTV videos, which would portray women as the groupies. And that was kind of getting, I don't know, just kind of looked down on a little bit of the whole poser thing. So, I think the guys in the underground were more or less, happy to see just regular girls, and they were more comfortable, I think, talking to us versus, the other girls that kind of, modeled themselves after those like videos and that kind of thing. So, it wasn't, it just wasn't hostile. A lot of the guys were so shy and socially awkward. They just weren't jerks. Nowadays, I see a difference from what people are telling me. I mean, I don't experience it because I'm not really out there as much as people may think that I am. I'm not really as active with, like going to a ton of shows and different things. So I don't really have a lot of exposure to a lot of it. But from what I see from others, they do have some negativity from some of the guys. But I don't. It's just different now. It's not like the underground, and somehow it's getting all like mixed. And I would just recommend to the girls now, just ignore that stuff. If you want to be in a band, be in a band. You want to go to a show, go to a show. Don't let these people control you. It doesn't mean anything. Like, just, they're trying to rattle you for whatever issues going on with them, and just don't let it get to you, and just ignore them. And I don't know. Hopefully, nothing too terrible is going on out there. I'm not aware of it anyway. But the only time that I really kind of felt like a weird treatment, there were a couple times like in the studio where I don't think that I was really respected. Like they wouldn't really listen to what I wanted to do, and then the recordings just don't have the right vibe. But I mean, maybe that wasn't because we were female, and they could be like that with everybody, and it was just a bad studio pick or something. I don't know, but I didn't have the misogynistic kind of stuff that I see women these days have, and that's unfortunate. What is metal music? This is a hard one to try to verbalize. I've been listening to metal since I was a child, so I don't think of it weird or anything. It just captures me in. Why it captures me in, I don't know. There's all sorts of different genres of music that capture me in. Like the blues really captures me in, and so it's not just that I'm into metal, but it does help. Like like if you're stressed out, it there's something about it that kind of takes you to, like, captures you in to like help you deal with stress. Like, it doesn't wind you up really to make matters worse. Like a lot of times if I'm feeling really stressed, I'll put on Slayer's South of Heaven, and you get so, like, all your anger and stuff kind of just like, I just gets wrapped up into like what you're listening to, that it goes away. It turns into something happy or whatever. Like, I know there's some times when you're driving and you start, like, a song comes on, you kind of get a little bit of lead foot going. So it does kind of affect you in that kind of a way, but never anything negative, unless it's something horrible that you're listening to. Then that will get you in a bad mood. But yeah, I know there's lots of people that don't understand metal, and that's fine. Like, not everybody's gonna like the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know. I think a lot of people that are not into it, they're just really literal people. They think of it that we're being controlled by these lyrics or whatever, and maybe they're just literal with everything. And but those that are into metal know that that's not the case. And you get it, you get it. You don't. It's a hard one to kind of explain, but yeah, it's for those of us that I think we're okay. Yeah, AI, I am not a fan of it, and I'm kind of shocked at how accepting a lot of people are of essentially making humans obsolete. It just in general, what concerns me is the loss of jobs that no doubt is going to happen. And if you look back in history and you just look at the whole automation that, I get it from a business standpoint of the speed and accuracy of different things like that, and being able to produce a lot more. But when you look back years ago when people had factory jobs and they were actually building the cars and different things like that, like those were that was good employment. And the machines took it over. So we've been seeing this kind of thing happen, and it's nothing new. And just with, if you call a company and you got the phone automation and the different dialers that companies use, and so people have slowly been eliminated from certain job positions, but it now, which I never even thought that this could happen. It's gotten into the music side of it to where AI is creating songs, and people seem to be cool with it. And that's, I have no idea why anyone would not want to listen to music that was, created by someone's experience, a human experience. If you look at so many bands out there that, there's songs that millions of people, love and, connect to, so there's something very unique, in people that are able to actually accomplish that, and that should be rewarded, that, like, having, a human that is able to accomplish that and capture in millions of people or thousands or whatever it is, that's cool. But to have, AI do it, for you, why? It just doesn't resonate well with me. And even with artwork, I know, some bands have gotten through that route of, going the cheaper, quicker way. And, there's so many talented artists out there that just have a certain way about, how they, create something. And that was always the cool thing with, when you get an album or whatever, when you have that artwork and you see, like, wow, like what someone was able to create from nothing, that's all part of it all. It's not just having a sick album cover, like it's people have gotten so lost, I feel, that it's just shocking to me. And it's so many people are just acting like this is how it is. You get with the times, or get out, and it's so strange to me. And I don't know how to get through to people, because this is one of those topics. You're either for it or against it. There's really, no common ground, so to speak, and we're just at the beginning of something that's kind of happening pretty fast. And as far as like going to the workforce, when people lose their jobs and they can't earn a living, so they can't buy things, they can't buy homes. So the companies that are going towards AI, who's going to buy their products, because who's going to be able to afford it? So it's going to be a really strange society, and the fact that it's gotten into art, I don't know, what's the point of us, argue with each other, it seems, anymore these days. I don't know. I hope for the best, but I don't see the best. But we won't be using AI. I even in the studio stuff, and I recently saw a band, and they had the flattest sound that I've ever heard live. There was no dynamic or anything. Everything was flat in the middle, and it was all kind of like computerized and stuff, and it really takes away from things that I think are positive aspects about live sound and music, and even people using like the like with their vocals and the auto tune and stuff. I don't know. It seems so tacky to me, but I don't know. Like I said, I hope for the best, but I think it's too late, since it's all in progress. Just hope, if you're watching this, just develop your own talent and be an individual, and not get suckered into just typing some things on a computer and have it do it for you. Just, I don't know. You're better than that. My views of the internet have changed over the years. In comparison to the pre-internet days, we used to have to write letters and send our cassettes to each other, and sending a package to Europe would take about a month. It would go over on the boat. We called that snail mail, unless you wanted to pay more money to send it airmail, and that still took about a week. You never knew if anyone got it, unless they wrote you back. And if they wrote you back and sent it, snail mail, then that's like 2 months for communication. So now with the instant communication, that's kind of nice. But the one thing when we used to write letters is we knew our target audience. I wouldn't send my demo to like a family member that would be like, what the heck is this, and so whoever I was sending it to, and then whoever they were communicating with, it was a controlled environment, so there wasn't a lot of drama. Now with the internet, there's no target audience. It's a free-for-all, which could be beneficial, because that's how you can gain more fans. Do the hashtags and, piggyback off of other bands and stuff, and hope that you can, grab some fans. That's pretty easy way to go about things and pretty quick. But you can also, you know, get involved in some online drama, and we've all seen the different bands that's happened to, and you know, just someone heard or whatever, you know, they didn't like something, and then, you know, some people just start the drama, and then all that negativity, you know, it's just a negativity that I'm not into, and you know, I can just imagine these bands. You wake up and it's like, oh my God, you know, you got a lot to deal with, and you know, we didn't really have that back then. So that's kind of a different perspective. And same with like fanzines and stuff. Like now everything's like an online link, you know, like I still have my old fanzines, and it's kind of cool like to dig them out sometimes and just, you know, go through them and read, you know, different interviews from back then. And, you know, it's cool. It's like something, you know, now, you know, it's the easy way out. You know, you're saving money on the print and the shipping and all of that, and just, you know, having everything online. You know, it's advantages because it's, you know, easy, cheaper, and, you know, quick. But, you know, 20 years from now, it's gone. It's you know, but, you know, I got stuff from, you know, over 30 years ago that it's cool, you know, and if someone comes over my house, like, oh, check us out. We got the old scenes, and start looking at it, and it's a good time. Well, I mean, not like great time, but, you know, it's kind of fun. And so that's kind of a difference. But the positives, I think they're obvious, but the negatives are just kind of, you know, the social media, and also like the oversaturation of information. A lot of bands, like, not even just bands, just people in general, like the daily posts, and sometimes several times a day. It's like there's a fear of being forgotten, and it becomes, for me, I mean, because I know this is a topic that we're not all going to agree on, but for me, it's like the little boy that cried wolf. You know, people constantly posting, and it's gotten to be like some that, oh, there they go again. And I don't even read the post anymore, especially when there's like a lot of, you know, when you have to scroll down to read everything. It's like too much, and I just it's just too much of people, you know, spewing things out. You know, again, it's like a quality over quantity kind of thing. And you know, the internet, I think there's a lot of quality is out the window. But again, there's positives and negatives, you know, and you know, what works for me may not work for someone else, and vice versa. But as far as in the comparison to pre-internet days, like I said, I still have my zines and demos and stuff that I can pull out, you know, and, you know, that's cool. So it's kind of, people nowadays, all their stuff is just going to be lost because it's just a link and in someone's email. And it's not even, I know with me, people send me stuff and it's lost. You know, I hate that. I wish it wasn't like that, but this is the times we're in, and maybe things will kind of go back to how it was at some point, but I don't know. I really like MASH. I watch that daily. It's on a television channel that I keep on in my kitchen. I think that's one of the best out there. Just really funny, and the drama is good. Terry just got me into a Netflix series called The Good Place. I'm binge watching that now. I really like it. And I liked Boardwalk Empire. That was a good one. And yeah, so that's 3. So we're now at the end of the interview. Congratulations if you made it to the end. I know some of my answers were a little bit long. But yeah, if you're interested in checking us out, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. I don't post that often, only when there's really something going on. But, there's lots of videos and music on YouTube, and we have our website, www.DERKÉTA.com, that has an online store. I don't have all of our merch up there just yet. I mean, we have the merch, but I haven't updated it. Just haven't had the time to get it back on the site. There's also you can listen to the music on our website as well. You can stream it. As far as recording, like I said, we're in the process of finishing up on some songs, and hope that we can get this recorded either the very end of this year or beginning of next year. And, hopefully that will go smoothly. We're talking to, a few promoters about playing some festivals next year. So hopefully that all works out. And, make sure you subscribe to this channel. They have a lot of good content on it, and hopefully this interview didn't deter you from that. But yeah, so yeah, subscribe and comment, and be sure to check us out if that's something you'd like to do. Anyway, well, have a good day.